Hi everyone, welcome along to today's video. So in the last of our series of looking at the valves, it's the most important one of all, this one. Yeah, this is the main stopcock. This is the one most neglected, funny enough, because they're quite often to be found at the back of a horrible cupboard that has a ton of stuff in front of it, a bit like mine. Just take a look. And there is the typical cupboard. My stopcock is way beyond the back of that lot. I expect like some of yours are. So that, along with the prospect of you forgetting about such a thing as a main stopcock, because you don't need it, not unless you have an emergency or you need to do a job around the home, and that is exactly when you do need this vital piece. Yes, this is the main stopcock, whatever you'd like to call it, but it's the main valve to your house, and it's the one that must work. So I'm saying to you now, once or twice a year, turn your stopcock all the way off, okay, until it stops. You'll feel the washer go against the seat, and then open it again fully until it stops. When it reaches the stop, just turn it back another quarter like that, just so that it stops it from locking on the end. Scale and stuff like this actually locks these things together, and when they don't get moved, you'll find this handle won't go. Let me just take the top off this and show you what's inside. There's not a lot to it really. I've loosened it ready so you can have a little look. If I take it off, you'll see this is an old one, so you can see the scale starting to get round that already. But as you can see, there's just a washer, and look how nicely worn that one is. I took this out some time back, about a month or so ago, and you can see how worn the whole thing is looking. So if you imagine that screws down onto the seat of the tap, which is that part inside there, okay, and when it makes the seal to that seating, your water is off. Okay, so what mainly goes wrong is, once again, like the gate valve, we have this threaded part here, and that is the part where the calcium and water minerals build up and stop this thing from working. Alright, and that's when we got big trouble, because renewing it, getting them to move is quite a job. I've got a video on trying to get them to move, okay, just slowly by opening and shutting. I'll give a link to that. But basically that is the prime trouble. Now, one other thing that can happen, I'll screw that back in there. You can see this has been off because of the tape in there, okay, just to seal it, because the washer, there is a little washer around that, by the way, so if it leaks from there, you know you can get away with it by putting PTFE tape around it, and that will do it. So we screw that back in there. What else can happen, I'll just tighten it up, is that when you go to move it and you start to get it to move, you find you get a little drip of water coming out of the gland nut here. We call it the gland nut. Now, it's very easy. A lot of occasions you just need to tighten it a bit, just give it a little turn and it will stop it. Okay, we will make it stiffer, so don't tighten it too much, otherwise you won't be able to turn the handle at all. But if you find it doesn't work, you get your spanner on there and you've tightened it that little bit, but it's still not stopped the drip, then that's the time to repack it. And I've also got a video on that, which I'll give you now. It should be appearing above my head somewhere, but basically you undo this gland nut here. I'll just get it off for you. Let's get that going and undo it, and it will be like so. Okay, and you just get a string of PTFE tape, wind it round and push it inside of there. Okay, slot it in, push it down with a screwdriver, not too much, so about 4 to 6 inches stranded together, poke it in, and once you've poked that in, then screw that back in. That's the gland nut. And when you do it up, don't do it too tight, otherwise you won't be able to turn it, because you'll find when you have loosened it, you can spin this thing around absolutely a piece of cake, because there's no seal there. It's kind of just really loose. So what you can do then obviously is get it the right amount down so that it's not too loose and not too tight, because the more you do that gland nut up, the stiffer that will become. You'll find that that is just right spot where you've got a bit of pressure still to turn it, but not too much. Okay, it's kind of almost like a feel, but because I've been a plumber for over 55 years, I know exactly how much to give it, but so I'm trying to pass that info on to you. Okay, so you'll get it right, I'm sure. You know the amount it's going to be just by the feel of it. And also, obviously, you want to stop the leak anyway, so you're going to have to tighten it until that stops. And sometimes if you have to go a little bit too much, you can, when it's gone, stop the leak. You can still back it off a fraction just to make it a fraction more easier to turn, but without it dripping out of the gland. That's if the gland nut leaks once you've turned the valve. So that is another important reason to check the main stopcock is working. Do give it a turn at least once or twice a year, fully off and fully back on again, or be at your peril when you go to use that stopcock, especially in emergency, and you can't get a water off, and then you rush outside to the outside stopcock on the path and find that one is just the same, stuck solid. You haven't even turned that one, although these days it's best devices to leave those alone because they are kind of water company devices, and you don't want to break one of those because you may have to pay to sort that out. So, but in a real emergency, I've had to go out and turn those off outside for people where the stopcock inside doesn't work. Okay, but that's another thing altogether. So mainly what we're on about here today then is that stopcock. Give it a turn and you'll be all tickety-boo. I know in any crisis you've got the answer to your problem. You can get that water straight off. Okay, no problem. Alright, that's it then. All my stuff, you know where to go. Usual place, Derriton 33. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye bye.